On this episode of Industry Relations, Rob and I discuss MLS data. Who owns it? What ownership really means? And does it really even matter? In other words, what up with the PDAP? Let's go. This is Industry Relations, a podcast that's at the intersection of real estate and technology from an insider's perspective, with Rob Hahn and Greg Robertson. Hi, everybody. This is Greg, and I wanted to give a quick shout out to our newest sponsor, CoreLogic. There has never been a time when it's been more crucial for real estate agents to demonstrate their value to their clients, and CoreLogic has all the tools for them to do so. One Home has generated over 17 million unique users who are exploring listing and neighborhood data. Their invitation-only client portal has also amassed 2.3 billion listing views, and their new photo AI search helps turn clients' visual aspirations into reality. For agents on the go, there's MLS Touch, which is their top-rated real estate app in the App Store, which gives agents instant access to critical MLS data wherever they are, and also can be branded for collaboration as a client version. Next up is RealList. RealList gives agents expert level analysis of properties, which helps their clients make smarter decisions and also can help them with their lead generation efforts. All of this is underpinned by Matrix, the industry's leading MLS system. Currently, CoreLogic is rolling out Matrix 12, which will have a brand new interface that works perfect for mobile and desktop. Lots of great stuff happening at CoreLogic. Don't forget an update from your favorite rep, whether that's Rick, Todd, Kim, Lauren, or the rest of the crew, or visit their website. You can look at the link in the show notes. My thanks again for CoreLogic for sponsoring Industry Relations.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Industry Relations with Rob and Greg. This is your co-host, the notorious Rob. As always, my amazing co-host, the fabulous Greg Robertson.
Hola, Rob. Hola.
Hola. How are you?
Good, man. Just, finally recovering from those brutal 2.5 weeks or whatever it was. And then got some family in town, and we got in Huntington Beach, we've got the Pacific Air Show going on this weekend.
Ooh.
So we're going to go out on the boat and get, hopefully low pass a bunch of jets. So
fancy.
I'm looking forward to it. Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm coming off of my 2 weeks of road hell, so I need to recover over this weekend. But listen, before we start, I do think we should just send out just a word. Just our hearts and minds, our prayers are with you to all the people in North Carolina and Tennessee, Georgia, all the people that are affected. It's still kind of a mess, and the only positive I think I can say about that situation is we are seeing just a real upswell of average Americans, just stepping up, right, doing for each other. And, a major realtor leader has been kind of like out there, Lee Brown. As far as I'm seeing all these tweets, all these TikToks, all these videos from her. Good for her. Good for all the other people that are helping out. Just want to send you kudos, and to all the people that are affected, we're thinking of you. We're praying for you. And
maybe we'll put, I think she's got some links to
donations.
How to help.
That would be great.
I'll make sure that Cole puts those in the show notes.
Yeah,
about that. But you used to live in North Carolina, so
I used to live in South Carolina. So the part that's affected, I remember it very well. Like Hendersonville, Brevard, Asheville. Obviously, has been hammered. That was maybe like an hour drive from Greenville, which is where I lived. And I love that part of the country. It's beautiful. But as we're sort of learning, it is kind of remote. And if roads get taken out, bridges get taken out, you're not getting in or out. It's remote.
Yeah.
So, look, I mean, all we can hope for is that the People's Army, if you will, the People's Relief Force, because apparently our federal government can't do shit. That's a whole political thing. Let's not even get into it.
Well, that's the thing I don't like about this stuff is like somebody wants to.
So I'm trying not to forget the negatives, right? So the positives are it's amazing to see just like average Americans just stepping up. And when other Americans are in need, they just step up. And I feel like that says something about us, as a country, as a people. That's beyond all the bickering and all the bullshit, right? So I just want to, and again, the fact that one of our own is in that mix is and that I'm proud to call her a friend, and that's awesome to see. Yeah, that's all I'll say. So, yeah, to your point, let's get some links and put that in the notes.
Yeah, for sure.
So, Having said that, on to happier. I don't know if they're happier, man. We talk
I
real
don't
estate
happy.
policy. Onto
Well,
topics.
I don't know. I don't know what you want to talk about today, but I mean, I'm intrigued, and that's we saw that Ari Colorado got a new CEO,
Yes.
but before that,
Yeah.
we were last talking our podcast about
Yes.
this new participant agreement
Yes.
of that really brought up this whole concept of like who owns the MLS data,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And as far as I can remember, the broker owns a listing, the broker owns a listing, the broker owns a listing, right?
Right.
So I've always kind of thought that was like just a known thing. But then, I know that you are working on your own little endeavor here that is in
Yes.
the MLS space that you really haven't
Yes.
formally announced yet.
Yes.
But what intrigued me, I'll just circle back to this, is there was a tweet that you were going to have a meeting,
Yes.
a webinar or something with some of the brokers in that area.
Yes.
So we hadn't talked about that. And,
No.
I'm very curious about what's the sentiment of the
Sure.
brokers in that area.
Happy to talk about it,
If
man.
you can talk about it, I don't even know if you can
Absolutely.
talk about it.
No,
Yeah.
absolutely. And unfortunately, since we're not able to like share screens or anything on this new platform of ours, yeah, there are like 3 slides that are really relevant. But so I'll
And
just kind
I
of go
can put
over
the
it.
slide. I'll put the slides in the show notes.
Okay,
So
maybe.
yeah,
And the slides are really people can look this up, right? So the issue that I identified was the Ari Colorado's new management, and now keep in mind Ari Colorado used to be a realtor MLS, right, owned by realtor associations. They sold the MLS to a private company that's I think they're backed by some PE firm, right? It's a little unclear, but there's a company Mazel, right, that now owns the MLS, which means that they're no longer a realtor MLS, right? So one of the
they're
things they
owned by a
don't
private entity. Yeah,
correct,
yeah.
so they don't have to comply with NAR rules, right? So they just put out a new
This is
participant
something you've
agreement.
wanted for a long time. Just to be
It's
clear,
something I
right?
wanted for a very long time, but
Yeah.
you know, that's okay. The private part is not the problem. The problem is what happened then, right? I'd like to believe it was just an honest mistake. That I'll start
Yeah,
there.
that's what we
Yeah,
left it last time,
yeah.
right? Was that
So the issue is this: there's in the new participant agreement that they sent out to all brokers, right? They made a major change, right? And I almost feel like maybe they're new owners. They don't know what they're doing. They've not been in the MLS space very much. Maybe they're lawyers, like not really competent. You know what I mean? They don't understand the big deal. What they did is they how do I put this? They put all the data feeds into one bucket, right? So IDX, VOW, broker back office, and PDAP, participant data access policy, right, into the same bucket, and applied the language that's sort of normal for IDX feeds. So if you go to any MLS across the country,
right?
it'll say something like, the MLS will grant the license to you, the participant, to use IDX. Okay. Um, you have to request it. You have to apply for it, right, in a form, that's acceptable to us. We
Yeah,
don't have to
everybody
grant you
knows this.
one,
Yeah,
right? Um, and if we grant you this data IDX feed, then there has to be a data license agreement that protects, all the data owners, blah blah blah. And we don't have to grant it. Like it's up to our option. Like you know what I mean? That was like always normal. And then if there are fees and costs associated with it, then you'll pay it. Okay. And the problem is they included PDAP in that, right? So I had to go through like a bit of an education around PDAP. I wrote it on my post, and it's amazing, man. Like it's still not something people really know, right? So PDAP is
right.
it was a policy that was passed in 2020, I think, and it's a creature of if you look at the NAR MLS handbook, right, which again every realtor MLS has to follow, right? It's policy statement 8.3, and you'll find it in section 18 of the MLS handbook under participants' rights. And I'll just read it to you. It says this is what would be interesting. Right of participant to MLS data feed of listing content. Here's what the rule says. A multiple listing service must, upon request, promptly provide an MLS participant, which is the broker, right? Because that's the participant, or the participant's designee. So any vendor, anyone that the participant says, this guy, a data feed containing, at minimum, all active MLS listing content input into the MLS by or on behalf of the participant, and all of the participants' off-market listing content available in the MLS system. That means sold. That means withdrawn. All of it, right? The delivery charges for the participants listing content shall be reasonably related to the actual costs incurred by the MLS. The way I look at it is, if you're a competent MLS, providing a data feed should cost you nothing. So if your MLS is charging anything over nothing, that's not a competent MLS. That's how I look at it. But, maybe some nominal $5, whatever, $10, one-time setup fee, whatever. Like, that seems reasonable. Anyway, the data feed must be in compliance with RESO standards as provided for in MLS Policy Statement 7.9. And then there's a note right after it. And this is really critical. And the note says, MLSs will not limit the use of the participant's listing content by the participant or the participant's designee. This is a mandatory policy. So MLS have to obey it, right? So what that meant is, and like, to me, this PDAP thing was always a reflection of what you mentioned, which is like, I don't know, the entire time I spent in the MLS space, just like entire time you spent in the space, the basic understanding was the brokers own the listing, right? Brokers input their listing data into the MLS. The MLS owns the compilation, which is the entire database, right? But the brokers own the listing, right? The MLS doesn't own the actual like individual listing. So when the broker says to the MLS, hey, I want my data back, right? Then the MLS says, so of course you can have your data back, right? At cost or for free, which is what it should be. And it's not just your actives, it's everything that you put into the system, which includes your solds, includes your off market, your withdrawals, your whatever, right? It includes all of that. It's your data, you should have it back, right? That's what the PDAP was. Number of MLS have implemented it, right? A few, it's amazing. You call that MLS, they don't know what a PDAP is.
Yeah.
Which is why I've been on this kick, like, hey man, some of these MLS are like really, really incompetent at their core job, right? Which is supposed to be data. But in any event, so when Ari Colorado, the new participant agreement, sweeps that under the same IDX type of treatment, I'm like, this is theft of property. This is a big deal. This is a major, major change in the relationship between the broker and the MLS, right? So that's why I sent the alert out, and we had the meeting with the brokers. So I'll tell you kind of the general.
Well, hold on. Can I just?
Yeah.
So just in the effort to kind of just give a little other side of this, right? So
Sure.
You may like this or not. You're probably not. But, it is ironic to me, right, that one of the main proponents of the divorcing of MLSs and associations, right, is now complaining about that. Hey, well, yeah, you could become public, but I want this set of rules still to be in place. No. Ari Colorado, hold on. Ari Colorado is its own private entity.
Sure.
They don't give they can do whatever they want. They're not associated with NAR.
Sure.
They've now said, and then now the brokers have a clear choice whether they're going to accept this.
Sure.
That we're not going to give any feed back to you, even if it's your own data.
Sure.
And that's capitalism, right? That's like that's like they've made a decision that they are not going to do that. I think we can all complain about it, and we can all say, well, that's wrong. But, the brokers have to speak with their feet on that kind of stuff, right?
Absolutely.
So it's funny to me. It's like these, as you call them, second order consequences, and this is, you're feeling a little bit of this because of some outside things you're working on.
No, I'm working on an MLS. I have a non-realtor MLS. Like, we'll talk about that future date. No, but here's so.
But I mean, but you know what I'm saying? So it's like, this guy who's like, he's getting, well, I do like some rules. I just don't like these ones, right?
Allow
come on,
me
man.
to retort.
Okay. Could I have that? This is a good burger.
Yeah. You're finished. Okay. Well, allow me to retort. That is not my complaint, actually. Right. And my complaint.
Oh, I'm sorry. I just heard. I know what this last 5 minutes.
Exactly.
So sounded like a complaint.
This is what I brought up to the brokers on the webinar. It'll be one thing if the new Ari Colorado, to your point, they're not a realtor MLS. They don't have to comply. If they actually made that clear, that is not what happened. In other words, you're right. It'd be one thing if they're like, we're a private MLS now, we're changing the deal. So when they sent this, like, hey, we need to execute this new participant agreement, if they say, hey, now that we're not a real term, we just want you to know we are changing the deal, right? That's
But
capitalism.
but I mean, didn't they just sent out, we're changing the
No,
part.
no.
Here's a new
So
one. That's
one
a
of the
change.
one of the issues that's come up during our call was the fact that a number of brokers got this, just kind of like a routine email, right? And whoever their service person on article is like, hey, I just need you to execute this updated agreement, right? No
The
mention
assume
of
close.
this
The
major
assume close.
change. Do you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Well, it's like getting an email from Apple or from
Right, right,
Google is saying we've
right.
updated our terms and
That's right.
agreements.
That's right. I think
Right.
that's dirty pool. That's what I actually have an issue with. In other words, if Ari Colorado wants to come out and say, listen, we're a private MLS now, so here's the deal. We own your data. So if you sign this, just to understand, that means we own your data now.
Yeah.
Then say so. And then the brokers could, figure out, vote with their feet, whatever.
But I mean, again, this goes back to like again,
Basic
I love that.
capitalism means you
I
gotta
love
you
this.
gotta
I
have a
love this.
meeting of the minds, right? You
I
have to
love
have
this because I've got Rob Hahn
yeah,
in my hands here. Let me give you another Rob Hahnism,
sure,
okay?
sure.
A libertarian Rob Hahn. Like, hey, these people are fucking adults, Rob. They sent them a new participation agreement. Do we have to call out everything? They're adults. They can read this thing, right? I mean, so
Look, the
I mean
basis
that's
of
what I think I would hear you on the other side saying to me.
well,
Like, why do
that
we
has
have to
nothing to
have
do with
these things?
libertarians believe in private contract, man. But private contract, in order for there to be a contract, there has to be a meeting of the minds.
Right, but again, I think
There's no
it
meeting of the
goes to
minds
this
here.
fact of like, do we have to spoon feed everything to everybody, or what here? Right? I mean, I've heard you say we're all adults.
Sure,
We can read contracts ourselves.
sure.
Why is it the government's job? Why is it anybody's job to kind of like have to kind of do this for them? Right?
No, it's not. But there'd be one thing, man, if this was like brand new. My point is, your existing MLS, every single one of these brokers have signed a participant agreement under the previous, right? They've had a relationship with Ari Colorado for what, 30 years, let's say, 20 years, okay? And then for a new management to come in, make major changes, and then just kind of slide it into, hey, just need to update this. I, I I don't think that's fair. I don't think that's right. I don't think those contracts are valid. And I've told it, like, I'm not your lawyer, right? Go ask your attorney. But just my interpretation is when it's done like that, that's not a valid contract because there's no meeting of the minds.
Yeah.
Right? If it's a major change like that, you got to tell the other person, by the way, we need to. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. So what is the interesting part about that is like, let's say I'm an informed broker
Right.
and I don't agree to that.
Right. They're not
Um,
signing.
they're not signing, so
They might be
now
losing
what is
access.
they may be losing access,
They may
right?
be losing
And do you
access.
agree
Correct.
that that's okay? I mean,
I do, but here's what I would say is then Ari Colorado owes those brokers all of their data.
why?
Because those brokers signed the old participant agreement under the old rules, which said
Right.
all the data is yours. Anytime you request a PDAP, we're going to send it to you. They said we're not going to sign. Give me my data. Then the right thing to do and the legal thing to do at that point is be like, sure, here's all your data, right?
Right.
Everyone who's signing up under the new terms, right, knowing they're walking in, both eyes wide open. I'm going to pay this MLS for the privilege of giving them all my data. Hey, you're grown up. You go do that. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
As I'm not saying this is conscious unconscionable. I'm saying that's why I kind of feel it was a mistake. In other words, I don't want to think that Ari Colorado, the new management there, are a bunch of evil, lying bastards. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying I think they just made a mistake. They said, let's simplify it. We're just going to throw all of this into one data license clause. And somebody over there did not realize PDAP is different than IDX, VOW, and broker back office. Right?
Yeah. I don't know, man. I mean, it seems pretty deliberate to
That's
me.
I'm giving them the most charitable interpretation. I think
Right.
they just
Right.
made a mistake, which means, and I told all the brokers on the call, go
In our
ask
last
Ari.
podcast, yeah.
Right,
I mean, what
go ask
it's
Ari
easy
Colorado
to correct.
change. Just change the policy. It's easy. Oh, oops, we didn't mean that. PDAP is not part of this. No, PDAP, you still have all the rights. Don't worry about it. We'll change this. That's all it has to be. If you don't change it though, then we have bigger questions. Now, what's interesting about this is there's a bigger question now that's arising out of this particular episode. Okay. Which is, I'll just say that I've been contacted by several knowledgeable people in the industry, in our
Mm-hmm.
business, in the MLS space.
Mm-hmm.
And they're taking the stance that I'm wrong in thinking that the brokers own their data. And they're saying maybe they don't. I'm like, oh, I'm willing to bet the brokers don't believe that. Like, I'm willing to bet
Right.
money. So we had a number of brokers who are not in the Denver area join our call. And what I told them is, look, maybe this will affect you. Here's what I would say. Call your MLS, right? Ask them straight up, do I own my listing? If they say yes, you say, prove it, give me a PDAP feed.
Okay, so that's
It's simple. If they won't give you a PDAP feed, or they'll say something like, well, you have to sign this license agreement, or it really depends, on what you think you own. Like if it's not like a really clear, oh, absolutely, you own your data, give me a PDAP feed. Absolutely, here it is. If the response is anything other than that, then I'm like, you need to then start having some real conversations, like with your local MLS.
So let me ask you a question though.
Yeah.
Let's say, because there's like legalese definitions of shit, and then there's just real world applications.
Yes.
Could there be situations where the absolutely the MLS says we own the data, right? But their policy is, because their association with NAR, is that but because of this policy that we're under, you can get your data anytime you want.
Sure.
They hold on to the legalship ownership thing, but they are willing to give their any broker member
or something,
whatever, right? So can both of those things exist at the same time?
I suppose they could, right? I suppose they could. But again, then I just go back to this. Ownership means something. I mean, hell, man, we're in real estate. We should know that, right?
Yeah, but it's also like a thing where, it could be mostly a bad on the broker part where I cannot fucking believe I'm going to say this, but this is kind of what Upstream was about, right?
I mean, maybe
the brokers have their own compilation of their own data,
right,
and all the things that happen to it, right? And they have their own record, and the MLS also has a record,
right?
So if a broker, the other thing you can tell brokers right now in this case of like ambiguity, you should be doing everything you can right now to be capturing this data yourself in case your MLS gets bought by a
private equity firm,
a private equity or private company,
right?
That doesn't look at the same thing or doesn't have the same values as you do,
or more importantly. So I was asked, like, why is this happening now, do you think? And I think my answer is because the MLS has lost compensation, and we talked about it, I think, last time, right? Like, the value of the MLS has always been compensation, and that's gone now because of the settlement, right? That's the one thing the MLS can't do, right? NAR's come out with all this guidance, like, here's how you can share compensation information. You just can't do it on the MLS. I'm like, okay, cool. But the MLS was like, that was why it existed. That was the whole value proposition. So you need to come up with some new value proposition. The obvious one is the data, right? Like the MLS is the single source of truth. It's the repository of all the data. So this feels like a move by the MLS to like shore up their value. Right?
Okay.
That's kind of how it feels to me. Maybe I'm wrong. If MLS want to chime in, like I'm open to being wrong on that, but it feels like an effort to shore up the value. My thing is, if you're going to shore up the value, man, you just need to make that real clear to the brokers, because I'm telling you, brokers do not. They have a simplistic understanding. You could call it simplistic, right? They're like, it's my listing. I own it. My agent went out, worked their ass off, did the whole thing. Like we've heard that, right? Sat with the seller and convinced them, and they spent hundreds of hours and thousands of dollars like generating the leads and building the relationships, and they got a listing, right? That's my data, right? That's how brokers feel. I genuinely believe this. And I know this because I spoke to a bunch of very large brokerage leaders, right? Who were like, they were flabbergasted when they learned that, what do you mean? Like, what? The MLS owns my data? Screw that. I mean, that's been their approach. So I'm just saying at this point, every broker in the United States, within the sound of my voice right now, should be going to their MLS or all of their MLS because a lot of them belong to multiple. And it's a very simple question: do I own my data? If the answer is no, you have some decisions making to do.
Well, you have some decisions, but the answer may be no. We legally we own the data,
Right.
but if you wanted any time
Right.
to get your
Right.
data, we
Right.
have
Right.
this policy at PDAP
Right.
that you
Right.
could get it. I
Right.
mean, would that solve it? I mean, like, that's what I was
No.
asking before.
No. Because again, that's like, again, we're all in real estate, right? There's a difference between a homeowner and a home renter. Right? To me, it's like, no, we own it, but we'll let you use it whenever, have it whenever you want. That's like,
Okay,
it's my home, I'll let you rent it.
but I mean, there's a lot of companies out there, right, that their business is, in a sense, ease of access
Mm-hmm.
to data, right?
Sure.
Right. So, I mean, I could, if I'm a broker, track every change, capture all the fields, create a Excel spreadsheet to do that. I'd have to
Sure.
hire probably some
Sure.
person to do that. Or I join this MLS
Sure.
and they do it for me.
Sure.
They get, ownership technically of it, but I do get the service of being provided by that.
No,
Of they are going to sell me the compilation of that feed to me
sure.
or
Right.
provide it to me as part of being the membership. So,
Right. Hey, man, like way I look at it, if it's clearly explained that way and brokers say I'm in, fine.
right.
Do you know what I'm saying? It's just what I'm saying is that is not what brokers think.
Right. I
They
think
think
to
they
me what
own it.
the troubling thing, and again, brokers can now, I mean, it is I don't understand why some of the local MLSs there, like Iris or some others are not just after this,
Oh, I'm
especially.
sure they are because we are,
Um,
right? So I'm
yeah,
sure they are.
right.
Competition is
But I
better,
mean,
is good.
what I didn't like about the language there was like, we may,
Right.
yeah, it's just
We
like,
don't have to grant you this
we don't have
fee.
to do anything, right?
Right? We
We
don't
can
have
just
to.
sit on
Right.
it if we want.
And
Yeah.
here's the thing, man. Ownership. Here's the importance of the ownership thing, right? Let's say you eyes wide open walk into an MLS. The MLS says, "Hey, we want to provide all these services for you. Okay, in exchange, we're going to own the data. We'll let you have it. We'll let you broad license, right? Anytime you want. Okay. Thing is, when you own the data, you can change the license
Yeah.
because it's yours, right? And a fundamental right of ownership is it's exclusion. Like, I don't have to give you any of it. I could, but that's my choice.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? So in
Yeah.
theory, that MLS gets acquired by a PE firm, whatever. In theory, that MLS could be like, you can have your data back in exchange for 10% of your profits.
Right. Oh, they could do anything. I
They
mean,
can do anything
you'd
because
have
it's
to,
theirs, right?
yeah.
So that's why I'm saying, if you're so
They
that's what I'm
almost,
telling brokers, like, just go ask the question, like, and don't accept some weird like, do I own my data? Yes, give me a PDAP feed.
yeah.
Do I own my
I think
data? No. You
there
have some
might be another
conversations to do.
remedy to this where if an MLS does this, that, okay, going forward, this is what's going to be the new
Right,
thing. Okay.
right.
Here's a link to your data
Right. Here's your
previous to
PDAP.
this.
Here's all your stuff. Right.
Here's previous to the thing. This is yours. So
Yep.
before we realize this is a big
Yep.
change,
Yep.
right?
Here you
So
go.
here's your
Yep.
previous data. Now, if you want to continue with us,
That's
this is
right.
the new terms.
That's right.
If
And
you
now we're gonna
don't,
own it. That's right.
yeah, we're
That's
going to
right.
own it. We
Right.
will still, we have these new terms in here that
That's
we
right.
may do it or may not, right? But you are free to leave if
That's right.
you don't agree with this,
Right.
right? So, yeah,
And I think that's perfect legitimate, right?
right.
So the thing that I'm complaining about with this, going back to allow me to retort, is of course Ari Colorado can do whatever they want. I'm just saying you just didn't make this really plain, right?
Right.
And again, I don't think Ari Colorado strategically meant to do this. I think this is a mistake. I think they're going to change. I think they're going to go back and be like, we need to tear out the PDAP provision, right? That's not what we intended here. IDX, VOW, broker back office, that's the entire compilation. That's subject to license. That's all of that is fine. PDAP is the broker's own data. My point is this is raising this other bigger issue now for the entire country.
Who owns the data, right?
Who owns the data?
Yeah.
Because we have gone, I'm genuinely, the entire time I've been in the MLS space, I spent 13 years consulting for them. Like, the entire time I've been in real estate, the base understanding of brokers where I own the data, I own the listing, I license it, I kind of let the MLS have it. The MLS owns the compilation of all the listings, right? So I can't go to the MLS, download the database, and then sell it. Like, sell some data broker. That's a violation because the MLS owns the entire compilation. However, my listing that my agents put into the MLS, that's mine. And if I say I want it, I get it, right?
Now,
and I
okay,
think that's under question now.
Right.
That's all I'll say. It's under question.
Okay.
Brokers should go ask.
Well, I don't know. I mean, maybe it's not under question. I haven't heard any other MLSs chime in. This might be just an issue with this particular situation, right?
Sure.
I haven't talked to any other MLSs.
Sure.
And maybe you have, or somebody else has out there that knows it, or there's MLS people listening,
right,
and they're going, "No, Greg, the MLS owns the data."
Right.
I don't know.
Right.
The only one I've really,
Rob,
I don't think that's ever been brought up because I guess maybe in my mind, maybe I've been thinking it wrong for a long time. But
it's never been brought up because we just this was one of those basic fundamental assumptions.
Right.
Why would you ever think why would this get brought up?
If you're an MLS exec,
right,
in the comments, chime in.
Chime in.
Does the MLS own the data, or does the broker own their data? Right. So that would be a because this could be an anomaly. The way that it could have been a mistake. It could be an anomaly.
That's my hope.
I mean, when we haven't heard from, I think officially, has there been an official? I mean, I know with the way the PDAP or the participant agreement reads,
right?
But has Ari Colorado or any MLS specifically anywhere stated the MLS owns the data? I don't know if I've ever read that anywhere.
There's only one MLS that I know of that says we own the data. Okay. And that's Actress in Austin.
Okay. So there is precedent for this. There is a precedent for,
where they say that
MLS saying that.
Like when you enter listings, you're assigning all of your ownership to us. Like Austin actually is the only one that I know of that
so
says
it's not
that.
Right.
And again, if those brokers walk into that situation, eyes wide open, and it's your property, it's your intellectual property to give away, right? So I'm not challenging that. I think it's a bad idea, but that's a whole separate thing, right?
Right.
In this case, what I've heard is that Ari Color sent out an email, like an email update to brokers saying, hey, this new agreement doesn't change your rights under PDAP, blah, 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 right? And I'm like, that's not a contract. Your email clarification conflicts with the language of the participant agreement, so therefore you should change the agreement. Right?
Okay, time out. Yeah. This is new. So you said that Ari Colorado has sent
an email,
email, a clarification.
Correct.
You say.
Right.
And that clarification says what?
Saying that your PDAP rights are not affected by this.
Okay, so boom then, right? So they can get their
but that's
PDAP...
my point, Greg. You can't say boom because the language of the legal document here is the participant agreement, right? An email clarifying is not legally binding, if you will. Right?
Well, hold on. This would be another thing you could do, right? So if I'm a broker, I would go and request my data from Ari Colorado under PDAP.
Right.
And if somebody there says, well, we're not going to give it to you.
Right.
I would then show them the email from Ari Colorado saying, you said that I would still have the same rights. So what's the deal? So, I think this isn't exactly, maybe this is an interstitial thing to them, whatever. But that's pretty clear. That's a pretty good clarification.
I genuinely choosing to believe this was a mistake in drafting. It's easy to fix, Ari Colorado.
Well, that clarification kind of leads to that also, right? They're
right, but then change the language in the legal document is all I'm getting.
Okay,
at, right.
Well, that's going to probably take a little bit of time. Then it sounds like they've recognized that there's something that people are having a misinterpretation of this, and
it would take 30 minutes.
Well, I don't know. Fucking lawyers. I've never had a lawyer take 30 minutes of anything in my life. Dude.
It would take you could take paragraph 3, remove the word participant data access policy. That's all you have to do. Just remove it. Okay? And then do a 3A, participant data access policy is unaffected. That's all you got to do. It takes 30 minutes.
All that sounds like to me is me yelling at a developer saying, just move the button from here to here. This should take you 10 seconds.
Okay, well, as a trained attorney, I'm telling you, it would take me 15 minutes to get that done. I could have ChatGPT do it in 3 minutes. Like it's
I tell you
really
what, here's
easy.
what I would do then. Change, why don't you write the way it should be?
Yeah.
We'll put it in the show notes, and then it'll make it easier for everybody.
Well,
But
because
again, you're not their attorney.
that's right. And I'm not your lawyer. Like they have lawyers that are very competent. That go figure it out, right? So,
Right.
like I said, I mean, hopefully this is a one-off. Hopefully this some. But
Yeah,
like I
I
said,
kind of think we buried the lead here a little
no,
bit,
like
but
I said
okay.
though, the important thing to come out of this, right, is now there's a question, and I think every broker, one of two things, either. So here are the possibilities. Okay, either the broker knows, oh, it's not my data. When I joined this MLS, I gave it away. In that case, there's nothing for you to do. You gave it away. Okay. Um, Make sure agents know that, because that whole like homes.com, you're listing your lead.
Yeah.
Well, technically, if the MLS is the owner of the listing, then it should be your listing MLS's lead, right? Because it's the MLS's listing. Just bringing that up. So make sure everyone understands when we joined this MLS, we gave away all of our listings, all our data belongs to the MLS. Just okay. And whatever we get to do is by the grant of permission from the MLS, from grant of license. Okay. Should that MLS get taken over by a PE firm, that could all change overnight. I'm just some things to think about. If, on the other hand, you believe that you own the listing, then the next step is you got to go ask your MLS, right? And whether they say yes or no, you should be requesting a PDAP feed.
Right.
Make them prove it.
Right.
And if the MLS refuses to give you your own listing back, then you have some other discussions to have, within your community and decide what you want to do. Right.
Yeah. So I'm learning like three major things here, right, in my
Yeah.
head. Right. So the first thing I'm learning is I never knew there was this. I guess this is maybe on me for being this stupid, but I didn't understand that there were MLSs that owned the listing.
Right.
So this has been in effect. You said that Austin's been doing this, so there has been precedent for MLS
Right.
owning the listing, saying they own the listing, and then
Right.
that marketplace is running. I don't know what their PDAP. I guess if they're
That's
part
right.
of NAR, they still have
That's
to
right.
follow that lead, right?
That's right.
The second thing I've learned is that that Ari Colorado issued some sort of email clarification on this.
That's right.
Right? Because I didn't know that either. And I guess the third thing is that I didn't understand is that I guess it's just those two, maybe not a third. Yeah.
The third thing you learned is that every broker should request a PDAP feed. Every MLS.
Well, I think it's worth a stress test, right? I mean, in a sense, right? That's what this is, right?
Yeah.
And then I guess they have to they can either if they can get a PDAP feed and it be okay that the MLS technically owns it, like the brokers of Austin have. That's one way of going. And then the other thing they have to do is if they can get a PDAP feed and they don't like the ownership being on the MLS side, well, they have some decisions to make, or they're going to have to kind of.
That's right. That's right. And then they should give me a call, right? Is how I look at it.
They should give Rob a call.
If they pull a PDAP feed and they don't know what to do with it, they should give me a call because I'll host it for them for free. So. Yeah. Again, that's not the point of our podcast. Like, right. I'll come and pitch my MLS to our audience at some point, in the near future. But I'm just saying, like, this becomes an industry-wide thing. I think it'll be good to get real clarification. That's how I'll put it. Because so much of what's happened, I feel like it's the last 10 years, last 20 years, sort of like slow development. And most brokers do not pay attention to MLS policy stuff. Right. Most brokers are not in the weeds of like looking through the legal document. They're not doing that. Right. So there are like work groups and policies and CMLS think tanks and whatever, like others that have done this work. And it just kind of gets passed and gets included into like updated participants, whatever, which then gets sent out to brokers, the same way that like Facebook goes, hey, we have updated our terms of use, like click here,
Yeah.
Without like actually ever explaining, by the way, we have completely compromised your intellectual property rights. Meaning the disconnect is between what the brokers think is the reality and what may be the reality. And I think for the sake of everybody, there should be total unit, like we should get on the same page there. Because I'm telling you, we're doing the seminar. Every broker is like flabbergasted. What do you mean I don't mind? So every single one that we spoke to is pulling their PDAP feed. Every single one, right? Whether they're gonna have us host it or host themselves, like we don't care. Like it's not about us. This is about you protecting your data. If you think you own it, then you need to go request a PDAP. If your MLS says no, or forces you to sign a license agreement, or whatever, puts any limits, any restrictions, then consult your attorney because it means you don't own it, right? So even in the case of Austin, right? So let's just take that as an example. Austin owns the data, right? Broker goes to request a PDAP from Austin. Austin sends them a PDAP under a license, broad license, okay? Can the broker sell that data?
Yeah, good question.
Right?
I mean, if they can get the PDAP feed and it's and well, I don't know if it's
can they sell it?
I don't know.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah. I
That's
don't.
the
Maybe
ultimate
they
test
can.
of ownership,
Maybe they can
right?
sell it, but they can't use the MLS, any functions of the MLS to sell it.
Yeah. No, so they download their data, they print out a CSV file, they sell it to a data merchant. Can they do that?
If it doesn't violate the data license,
but then you don't own it.
Fine with the MLS, right?
Then you don't own it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, a broker can't. Even if they own the data, right? There's still some limitations to, like, I can't be a broker and I can't download that data. Maybe I don't. I'm just going off the top of my head. I see your smile, like I got him, right? So let me finish my thought. A broker cannot download the data. Let's say, over 7 years, they've sold 700 homes and then sell that list to a guy who cleans pools.
Why not?
Yeah, I don't know. I would think that's because I think somewhere in the license agreement that they signed being part of the MLS is that you can't, do commercial things like that.
Let's say you've never joined the MLS.
Okay.
I sold 700 homes. I have data on 700 homes. Okay, we're going to leave privacy concerns aside for the time being, okay?
Yeah.
Let's say, for whatever reason, privacy concerns are met, right? I have a database of 700 listings over 7 years. I can sell that to a pool cleaner.
Sure.
Right? Okay. I put that into the MLS. It's still my data. Why can't I sell it to a pool cleaning company?
Because I think the participant agreement that you sign has not. One of the things has to do with the ownership of data, but I think there's other things that you have to
agree to.
Agree to.
Yeah. No,
because you're part of that MLS.
But that's what I'm talking about: ownership and participant rights, right? Again, the PDAP language, participant rights, specifically says MLS may not limit the participant's use of the participant's own data. So whether I put it into the MLS or not, if I say this is my data, 700 homes, I'm going to sell it to a pool cleaning company, I can.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know.
Right?
I mean,
that's
I understand what you're saying.
So the question for the Austin brokers is, can you sell that data? Because actually Austin owns that. You're just being allowed to use it, but I don't know if you can sell it. So someone should try, maybe. Try selling the data. See what Actress says. Because here's the danger for Actress. And this is, where like intellectual property law gets really, right? If you don't enforce your copyright, you lose it.
Right.
So if Austin truly owns the copyright and the broker says, I want all my data, I'm now going to sell it to this data company, right? And Austin says, no, you can't do that because that's our data, then you don't own it either. You've lost your copyright ownership. So this is a tricky little issue. And I'm sort of glad that this is coming to the fore. What I'm hoping is, when it's all said and done, so say the next week or two, all the brokers start calling their MLSs like, give me my PDAP. Do I own the listing? Every MLS goes, absolutely own the listing. We own the compilation, but your own listing, it's yours. Here's the feed.
Yeah.
No problem.
Well, what I love about this is that this harkens back. I think we were at Blueprint together, or maybe it was just me, but I was in a car with somebody.
Were you having dreams about me? Is that
exactly?
Yeah, baby.
But it was a a broker who he was telling me this, and I thought you were there maybe, but he was telling me, like, listen, I remember specifically listening to you and Rob talk with Ed Zorna about these form issues. And when I was done with that podcast, I completely understood it. And I was on the forms committee, and I said to them, we need to take all compensation references out of our forms. We're not thinking about this correctly. I understand it now. And they made that change, and it happened. I believe this might've been in Vegas, maybe. I don't know. I'm not for sure about that.
Okay.
But he was, and this feels like, hopefully this is kind of one of those things where
That'd be great.
the right people can listen to this and then
Yep.
think about this for a while and go, what is really going on here? Because I feel that there's also things that we're not considering because we're not practitioners of running MLSs, as we always kind of say.
That's right.
But I think it's a valuable discussion for sure.
Oh, absolutely. And like I said, I think if nothing else happens and the brokers and the MLSs get on the same page with this, cool. Right? Yep. Whether that's MLS owns it, broker owns it, either way, as long as they're on the same page, cool. Yeah. Hey, man, that's a contract. That's capitalism. What I think is at question now is whether they're on the same page.
Yeah.
I have a feeling they're not on the same page.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm sort of, that's why I think this is interesting.
And I think, the same page could be that, no, we own it, but you can still have a PDAP fee. That might be a reasonable.
Fine. That might be fine. Hell, man, it could be anything. We own it and we own your ass. Okay. Yeah. You're our data bitch. The broker's cool with it. Yep. I'm your data bitch. I'm getting on board. Like, you're grown-ups. That's capitalism, right? Like, that's what you agreed to. I'm okay with that. I'm just pointing out, I think there's a disconnect and we need to remove the disconnect.
I think we've referenced this before, but there's a South Park episode about, about corporations who put out these terms of agreement. Or changes in their license, and then it turns into some sort of human centipede thing. I mean, maybe we'll put a link in the show notes about that too.
Oh man. Anyway, great chatting with you. I think we missed a week, so do apologize for missing that. And everybody, thanks for listening to us. Obviously without you, we don't do any of this. But always fun to hang out.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everyone. See ya.